Hey everyone, this is Yari from Mermaid, and today we're going to be taking a look at how we can create a flowchart in just a few minutes by using Mermaid AI. We're then going to go in and edit that flowchart by using Mermaid AI as well as some other tools that we have available. Now, flowcharts are a really great way of visually breaking down a process into step-by-step actions so you can better understand how that process might work. This means they're especially useful for mapping out business workflows, documenting procedures, etc. We're going to start here in the dashboard. This is where you'll land after signing in. Currently mine is empty, but if you were to have any diagrams made, they would appear here. And since we're interested in creating our flowchart using Mermaid AI, we're going to go up here to the top left and press that new AI chat button. Pressing that will navigate us to the Mermaid AI window where we can prompt it through text. You can see we have some suggested text prompts right here below the chat box, or we can upload our own files. So these can be PDFs, transcripts, presentations, and visualize those as diagrams as well. But since we're interested in creating our own flowchart today, we're just going to use a custom text prompt. So we're just going to click here into the chat box and tell it something like, create a user sign in flow for a website. All right, so once it's done, you can see it generate a flowchart from what we just described. Taking a closer look, you can see we start on the sign-in page. The user will enter their username, email, and password. We go to this decision node, checking whether or not the credentials are correct. If so, we'll just sign them in, and if not, we'll just re-loop back to where they enter their username, email, and password. All right, so not a bad start. I think it's a bit too simple, so we're gonna add some complexity by asking the AI to introduce a forgot password flow. So we'll ask it to do just that. I'll type introduce a forgot password flow. And you can see it generates in real time right in front of you, and boom, it's done. All right, and then taking a look, you can see some similarities from the previous diagram. But if we zoom in, we now have that forgot password flow that we just asked it to introduce. And Mermaid AI has the context of our entire conversation, so we can just keep iterating on our diagram by talking to it. And then one last thing I want to do before we dive into the editor and the tools that we have available there is just to make the diagram a bit more visually appealing. So we're going to ask the AI to do just that. All right, so you can see how it styled our diagram a little bit. I literally just asked it to make the diagram more visually appealing. We've got some colors in there and also some new shapes, and I think it's ready to be used. Once you're satisfied and ready to use your diagram, just head over here to the left and press the Use Diagram button. Pressing that will pop our diagram over to the left side panel. And if you want to edit your diagram and start using it immediately, you can press the Edit Diagram button right here, or you can press the diagram on the left. Pressing either of those will bring us to the editor where we see our diagram right in front of us. And if you ever want to go back to using the AI, you can press the Use AI button here in the bottom left, and we'll go back to where we were before. All right, so the first thing I want to show off is the code editor. So pressing the Edit Code button on the bottom left will pop open the code panel on the left-hand side. And inside this panel, you can see all the code that's used to generate this visual diagram. And each kind of diagram has its own kind of syntax to go along with it. So if you're interested in writing the code yourself, you can press the Docs button here to learn more. But how flowcharts fundamentally work is that each node has an ID as well as a label associated with it. And then if you want to connect them, all you have to do is reference the ID, put two hyphens in a greater than sign, form an arrow, and you'll get that connection. So if I wanted to, I could create a node. We'll just call it A and give it a label of hi. And we'll connect it by typing two hyphens and a greater than sign, forming an arrow once again to our node called B, and we'll give it a label of hello. You can see it gets reflected here on the right visually as well. So any changes that you make in the code are reflected visually, and then any changes that we make in the visual editor, which we're going to check out next, are reflected in the code as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these and close out the code editor now. And inside the visual editor, we can make all the changes that we need to make visually using just our mouse. So if we wanted to replicate what we just did before, we can go up here and press the shapes button. We'll use a rectangle. We can double left click to change the label, which we'll just do hi. We'll go ahead and throw in another rectangle. We'll make that hello. And then we can drag with our left click and let go on top of that node, forming an arrow. And we have some other options here at the top as well. We can change the theme or look of our entire diagram. We can choose different shapes for our nodes. We just use the regular rectangle right there. We can add icons, images, text boxes, subgraphs, which are great for grouping nodes together and keeping everything organized. We can also change the direction of our flowchart. So instead of top to bottom, we can make it go from the bottom to top, left to right, flip it around, go right to left. Also leave it top to bottom for now. And then we have two different auto layout options as well. If you're not happy with either of those, you can just disable the auto layout. And then this lets you place nodes wherever you want. We also have some node specific customization options. So if you left click on a node, you can see we can change the shape here. We can change the border color, background color. So I can make this green if I wanted to. You can also change the text color, add hyperlinks that you can click on. You can move them to a subgraph from here. And this is where you can also duplicate or delete your nodes. And similarly, clicking on an edge, we have some customization options here as well. So to get rid of what we did earlier, we can just left click on the node and click delete, and we'll get rid of that connection that we had. And we can just delete this one as well. You can see how we can use Mermaid AI, the code editor, visual editor to create a fully customizable flowchart in just a few minutes. And you're not limited to any tool in particular. So if you wanted to just use the AI, which is probably the fastest and easiest way to create your diagrams, you can do just that. Or if you're more of a visual person, you can do everything you need inside the visual editor, and same with the code. But if we're happy with our changes and ready to be done, we can go to the top right and hit export. Here you can export our diagram as an image, so we can do a PNG. We can also do an SVG or export the Mermaid code itself. And we can hit share in the top right to share and collaborate on our diagram with other users. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below, or you can contact us via email. We're always happy to help out. And thank you so much for watching.